We're back with yet another day in the Big Brother house. It was an odd day. We had the veto competition. Christian won. So it looks like the nominations likely stayed the same between Brittany and Brent. First, I want to talk about some things that happened right after I recorded yesterday's video that I didn't get to talk about. First, we got to see a little bit of smarts from Claire for once. I mean, I'm going to talk shit about her game here in a few minutes. But yesterday, at least, Claire talked to the camera. We got to see some clarity on some of her thoughts. The main point that I liked from Claire's read is that she doesn't trust Kyland. So that is good for Claire, and possibly good for Tiffany because Kyland is one of Tiffany's many blind spots. It was good to get Claire's perspective that she also is down with Tiffany, but she knows she can't go to the final two with Tiffany because she would lose. But that's also interesting because at some point, if Claire thinks that, she's going to have somebody else try to take out Tiffany. This is yet another person onto Tiffany's game. I'll get back to Claire in a while. I next have to talk about the person quickly becoming one of my least favorites, and that is Tiffany. Every damn day, she's just doing too much. And before I even get to all that, I have to talk about the more problematic thing that she did in the wee hours of the morning is basically try to continue Brent's narrative of Azza being aggressive. And obviously that's one of the main issues with the gameplay on these games is all the microaggressions and the fact that Tiffany should know better, and she does know better, so she's clearly using it as part of the game is just trash. I will just keep reiterating there has been nothing aggressive about Azza. She's never even raised her voice in a conversation. She's still one of the nicest people in the goddamn house. And Tiffany may be doing a little projecting because the tea is that if Tiffany makes it to jury with enough white people, and when Tiffany's game blows up, guess who's going to be calling her aggressive? Because Tiffany plays aggressive as it is, so she has a lot of snide comments. So you know that narrative can easily be pushed onto Tiffany. And in fact, her own duo Claire, when she was talking to the camera, even pointed out that sometimes Tiffany's attitude might get her in trouble because of the way she can talk sometimes. And then just to make matters worse about Tiffany and Kylan's gameplay, they're definitely on the verge of possibly becoming a little too controlling with specifically Derek X. They were kind of annoyed with some of the things Derek X told to Azza that Derek X told to Tiffany what he said. And I mean this is not a good idea. I mean, Tiffany clearly likes to work with people she can't control, which is her real issue with Azza. Azza has her own mind, even if it's bad reads some days, but not every day. Some days Azza has great reads, but she can't control Azza. She can't control Derek F. Claire has became her bitch, but that's one person she can't control. She thinks she has a control over Christian and Alyssa right now, which is pretty true. And she the part of her game which is clearly showing why she's lacking right now a whole lot is that she also thinks she's controlling Kylan, which is why they get along. But in reality, Kylan knows this and is using that to his advantage. But if they really, even if it's just Tiffany and not Kylan, if Tiffany really tried to control Derek Eck's game, we saw what happened when Frenchie and Brent tried to do that. They're on the verge of going out back to back. Tiffany just needs to tread carefully because it's every day she's just doing too goddamn much. Every day I could get on here and drag her for doing something stupid in this game. She has her hands in too many pots, trying to juggle too many balls. Has already been sloppy about some things. Like the fact that with the wild card competition, she told Brittany and Azza one thing and then Derek X a different thing and has created a lot of the drama. It's honestly exhausting. She really has so many Frenchie attributes herself, and just every day falls in my eyes. And as far as her gameplay is, I just don't understand why she continues to try to do too goddamn much. It's not a good gameplay when every day you have just a new ball to juggle. It just isn't. It's week 3, and it's not even halfway through week 3. So I just don't understand Tiffany's game anymore. She really lost the plot. Like I said in the rankings, when the super fans of this game get even a little bit of power, they start to overplay. It's just what happens. And we saw it with Frenchie. Now we're seeing it with Tiffany. Xavier is the voice of reason in the cookout, but I don't think he's taking good enough control, and he probably needs to do that soon. But I think this shows why Xavier has the potential to win this game is because he's able to talk with each person of the cookout and make them understand. Tiffany can do that with Hannah. That's about it. And Kylan can do that with Tiffany and Hannah. Sometimes Derek F, but not really Ozza. And I think him and Xavier, I mean, who knows? But I just think that Xavier's showing that his social game is probably the most strategic social game of the cookout right now. But I mean, if it falls apart, which is probably on the verge of happening with the cookout, but because Ozza and Tiffany just can't get along right now, and it's Tiffany's fault. It's not Ozza's fault. Now, I can no longer defend Brittany. Really gonna struggle to defend Ozza, even though Ozza had a much better day. I mean, Derek F of all people, Derek F talked Ozza into just going out there and having a better social game today. So Derek F is the voice of reason with the Jokers right now. But Brittany, on the other hand, so tired of Brittany. She has become the annoyance that I figured she was going to become in the preseason that I was talking about. I really thought in the preseason it was going to come to a point where I just did not want to watch Brittany on feeds. And ding, 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 we are there. Can't stand watching Brittany right now. And she is dragging Oz's game a bit, but see, here's why I need to drag Claire for this fan base that are a bunch of hypocrites and just are sheep. Claire and Ozza and even Hannah are all pretty much in the same predicament in that Ozza has not really made big connections outside of Brittany. And you could say Derek X, but they're on shaky ground now. And then you could say Derek F, I guess, as well. But those are pretty much Oz's main connections right now. Hannah basically has no main connections. She is just kind of getting close to Whitney now. And then, of course, her and Derek X have a thing, but Derek X does not communicate well enough to her. And it's bad for both of their games right now. And then you have Claire. Claire is in big alliances, but nobody really fucks with her. She could be all these big alliances that she wants, but she can easily become a future target or pawn just for being so much on the outside, but still seen as somewhat of a target. Claire literally only has Tiffany. I don't think there's any number 2 for Claire. I think she's trying to get close to Hannah, but I don't know if that's working out after tonight because Hannah's been a little bit messy. But I say this because the fan base jumps on Ozza, and I saw this on Twitter. This guy made a great point. His name is Bullseye, at Bullseye, Bullzeye. This was spitting facts on the fan base. Bullseye on Twitter said that Hannah and Claire are quite literally in the same boat as Ozza, except they were fortunate to latch on to fan favorites, i.e. Derek X and Tiffany, whereas Ozza latched on to Brittany and Derek F, so only Ozza gets the criticism. That is Ika Wong and Gary True T right there, because this is exactly describes the fan base, because certain people are working with fan favorites they don't get criticism on their pretty subpar games. I mean, Claire's done nothing. I mean, she has some foresight in her readings, but she's Tiffany's bitch, and she has no number two. And she has no fallback plan. I mean, it's not the worst position in the world, but she's not playing any sort of good game. And Hannah is also in the same predicament as Azza, almost exactly the same. But of course, Azza has been getting all this criticism, where Claire gets all this love just for being a really subpar Robin to Tiffany's Batman. We'll say Batman, but she's losing it. Like I said earlier, Hannah got a little messy tonight. She's been talking a little too much. I think she said something in front of Claire to Whitney that Claire might not like, because when Tiffany was trying to bitch about Azza again, and that's another thing first. Tiffany yesterday's going on about how Azza's playing this emotional game. Azza's too emotional. For the past 24 hours, Tiffany cannot get over this whole Azza situation. She's angry at Azza, but she's really just pissed at herself because she's been caught in lies already with Azza. So, Tiffany, you are being an emotional player as we speak. But back to Hannah being messy with Claire. Hannah mentioned in front of Whitney that Claire might target Azza soon. And I don't think Claire wanted that information to get to Whitney. Really is a whole ordeal with because Hannah is easily a pawn next to Whitney next week if people that are planning on targeting Whitney next win HOH. And I don't know if I should really even waste time talking about the most boring showmance in the history of showmances. Alyssa and Christian, so boring feeds right there. And I feel like Alyssa's kind of jealous that Derek X and Hannah are having their flirtments, and everybody knows they have a crush on each other and they could be together all the time. But I mean, it's not like Christian and Alyssa are really great at hiding themselves being together a lot. So I just don't understand why players are willing to keep going along with the showmance between Alyssa and Christian when they're an obvious showmance right now. And then lastly, the main thing that pissed me off with Brittany and her emotions today was Ozzo was finally having a clear head that she just needs to stop taking the game so emotionally, because she was even getting emotional when Brent was being picked on in the veto challenge. So as she caught herself, if she's getting emotional about Brent and feeling sorry for Brent, then she really needs to change her mind. But of course, Brittany comes in with all her emotions and started to fuck with Oz's head again, and it's just a headache. I don't know if I want Brittany out soon or if I want one of the Jokers to win the next HOH. I think the latter, though, because if one of the Jokers wins the next HOH, not only is the house likely to be in some sort of shambles, but Twitter will be in so much shambles that I will be laughing my ass off.